afternoon. Today we're going to be going over your keyboard playing test number one. And in this piece, there are going to be four major things I'd say that you need to keep an eye on. And number one is going to be keeping your rolls in time. Number two is going to be the skips. Number three is definitely going to be that accidental, that F sharp, that I'm sure just the way our brains work, we'll forget about, especially as we get further into the piece. And then fourth is the dynamic changes at the beginning of each line. So, like I said, the first major thing you're going to want to make sure you get down and get under your hands is any big leaps from one sequence to the next. Make sure that you know where your hand's going to land, where your hands need to be, moving from one place to another. And the best way to go about that is just find your trouble spots, find your big leaps, anything like that, and run through that slowly, run through those sections slowly, make sure you get your hands where they need to be without getting them all tangled and jumbled up and mixed up. And then the biggest issue that I faced was keeping my rolls in time with the rest of the music. And that's going to be an issue for everybody, I feel, starting out. I think the best way to go about this is to maybe play rolls and count them out loud to begin with. Like, for instance, you could play this second line has 3 different sets of rolls in it, so you could just be counting in your head or have a metronome playing while you play and hearing that beat going. And every time you get to a roll, make sure it only lasts the 2 beats that it says, not to overextend it, like which is what I had a tendency to do. And then with the dynamics, it's not marked, but it should be implied that on the end of every line ends in a roll. So you could either decrescendo or crescendo depending on what happens in that next line. So at the end of line 1, you have a 4-beat roll that should decrescendo from a forte down to a piano. And then at the end of the second line, you have a half note. So it could crescendo in those last 2 beats up to a forte. And the best way to practice that is the same way I would say you practice your rolls on a snare drum. Just start at a dynamic, grow up, and then grow down. Just practice keeping that in control, keep your timing in control, keep your rolls under control, as well as your volume. And then the last big thing is always going to be your accidentals. Just because up to this point we've mostly been working in C, you haven't had to figure out how to reach for that F sharp or any accidentals really. So I think the best way to go through that is probably to just play a G scale, get really good at the scales, which you should be good at anyway. That's something that just needs to be in your repertoire for everyday purposes. And then that'll help you get the F sharp or any accidentals really under your fingers. It'll just become natural, second nature to know where that is. And another way to do that in this music, especially with it being your first time going through and a different key, really. It would be to go through and either highlight, circle, mark those F sharps. Make sure you don't miss them. Make sure you know where everything is. But yeah, other than that, there's not a whole lot of intricacy to this one. It's just those four main things. Keep an eye out for big leaps, anything like that. There's not any tricky rhythms here. Most of the eighth notes are stepwise motion, so shouldn't give you too much trouble. So, I think that's about it. You have a good rest of your day. Thank you.